I'm so glad that there's more than 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people here. Yay. So I made a little agenda for myself and it says start at 6:35. So we're starting at 6:35. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight in person and virtually. We are live streaming the meeting and there'll also be a recording of tonight. I'd like to thank the Knights of Columbus Hall and Greg Hewitt for setting this up for us and hosting us tonight. Thank you, Greg. I'm Lynn of Newport This Week. Everybody here probably knows me, but the virtual audience, I guess I should introduce myself. This is the third community conversation on the future of education for Aquidneck Island. In December, we had a very casual, informal gathering at Innovate Newport, where people just kind of mingled, they shared ideas, they looked at the student holiday artwork, and enjoyed holiday refreshments. No refreshments tonight, sorry. In January, we exhibited some science projects from Rogers, and there was a more formal speaking program, including Robert Young, the director of NACTech for the Career and Technical Center, along with many community presenters who talked about educational program ideas. And Steve Heath, who's here again tonight from Fab Newport, shared some really interesting thoughts about reimagining schools. So that was a really interesting night. We had other council members and school committee members who also gave updates and shared how the building projects were coming along. And actually tonight we're going to have a real short message from both Becky Bolan and Theresa Spengler from the school committees. Thank you both for being here tonight. And our superintendents, Colleen Germain and Rosemary Krager. It's really great to see you here. And all of the counselors that we have here too tonight. If our virtual audience or anybody here wants to review that meeting where all the ideas were shared, it is on the Newport This Week website. I'd like to ask that if you have a question tonight for one of the speakers, raise your hand, or I can give you a card or something like that. We want to make sure that we pass off a mic to anybody so that the virtual audience can hear any comments that are made. So each speaker will have some time after they make their presentation for questions, or like I said, just raise your hand and we'll be respectful of one another who are speaking tonight. Tonight we do have a variety of speakers again. We have Lou DiPalma from the state legislature. He might be joined by 1 or 2 of the other state legislators, but I hear there's a big meeting up at the State House, Lou, with the House Finance Committee. And since Lou's one of the men in charge, so he said, I'll be there. Don't worry about it, Lynn. I'm coming to the island. Middletown Councilor Dennis Turano will be speaking also about Middletown's community outreach program for out of classroom opportunities. We have a Rogers student, a Rogers senior here tonight, Pauline Cooper. Last meeting we heard from Chloe Christie, a Middletown senior. So it's great that we have a Rogers student with us tonight. But starting off the program is Liana Fenton, who's going to talk about future career pathways and skills that are needed for students in engineering, technology, and blue economy. Liana is a past president of the Rhode Island Associate of School Committees based in Warwick, and the National Association works with school committees across the state and the nation promoting student achievement in safe and challenging learning environments. She and her husband, Mike, are longtime Middletown residents, and their 2 children went through Middletown schools and graduating from MHS. And she was on the Middletown School Committee for many terms. So Liana, going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, there's more educators than parents here. Okay, so what I like to do, and when Lynn called me last night and said if we could do this, we've been working as a business person and an educator, we've been working with the businesses. You know, how can we prepare our students for future jobs? And it's not the technical skills that we do in FIRST robotics. You know, it's more of those soft skills and hard skills and, you know, thinking and so forth. This is what businesses need. And this is what we have to do to really get our students ready for different types of jobs. Okay. If you picked up a piece of paper, I just typed up just some quick soft skills and technical skills and personal skills. These are what the businesses want our students to know. And how do we put this into the curriculum? And I know that Steve Heath and I have been working on that. And he's done it extremely well. So how can we really work with that? So what I like to do is, because you're teachers and parents, I don't need to go over some of the things like how to put these skills into your work or in teaching your children. Similarly, you know, it's all you have to do is maybe just what I do when I go into the schools is I read the book on the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf, and we talk and I ask different questions, but then I have them build a structure that the wolf can't blow down. So, you know, they're all excited and they do that. But then we also have, when we're building and any type of, and if you have grandchildren, you know, all these different types of blocks. So you can build something. But then what I have the kids do is I have 3 different types of fans. I have a small one, medium, and large. And they put it on and see which one will blow the house down. And then you can talk about science and math and everything that's wrapped around. This is the type of skills we need to put into our play, our work, and our skills for the students. Okay. Now just think about the careers in the future. Would you think that a year and a half ago that we would have the blue economy here in Newport County? And we're the center of this for the East Coast. And all these skills are the important ones for our students. And just go through them. And we're working, and I'm working with the businesses on this too. Just go through it, like defense. They're working on the underwater submersibles. I met this one business owner from Israel, and he has an underwater submersible that will take these big ships that come into the port or cross the oceans, and the autonomous robot will just go around the hull and pick out all those little, I'm not a sailor, so all that little grime at the bottom of the ship, right down to a sailboat. So, and they take that grime and it's kept inside the submersibles, so it doesn't go to the ground. So, just think about the thinking skills that had to go on for these people to come up with this. And then another thing too is that we've been working on is the offshore wind. So you might want to have a lesson on how to build a wind turbine. And then, just like the 3 little pigs, you've got to test it out and then make it into your science and math and so forth. And just ask those questions, those critical thinking skills and so forth. So I've been working with them to improve the career pathways for our students and to put it in. And then also, I'm also working on, besides that is the, okay, I've been out all day, let's see. The blue economy, and then the technical skills. So again, you might know that my husband and I have done robotics for Newport County for 25 years. And the skills that these students come out with is exactly what businesses want. You know, they're good, creative. You know, when you have a task and you have a competition and the game is this, and you have to build a robot to play in that game, and then you go and compete it. These kids come out with those engineering skills and technical skills. I mean, this is the type of thing that we want within our schools. So as we're talking about how can we share and things like that, I think a regional robotics team would be great. You know, so there's many things that we can do. And so basically what we've been trying to do is to, you know, how can we get our students ready for jobs that aren't even invented yet? And I think that will be it for now. Oh, and I also have something that the educators might like, okay? This is the Providence Business News. And it's a book of lists. And it has every company's name in Rhode Island with a contact person. This is great. If you want internships or you want partnerships, this is a must because the students can go through them and say, oh, I might like this. I might want a mentor. And I know that Raytheon does this all the time in Newark and so forth. It's getting harder each time, but there's lots of companies that have called me and say, do you have some students? And, you know, we can do the technical stuff, but they have that social, personal skills that they're needing. And that's about it. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Liana. Becky and Theresa will give the floor and 1 or 2 mics here. Oh, there's one there. Oh, that one's not working. Okay.
I first want to say that your discussion on the submergibles, that's what my son does. He's a graduate of Rogers and then URI marine engineering, and that's what he does. He's working on submergibles and going all over the world with it right now.
Right now, I could get your son an internship because he's coming over.
Oh, he's got a, yeah, he's gainfully employed, which is very cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so well, Theresa and I have been actually talking back and forth quite a bit, you know, as the chairs of our school committees, and we wanted to see what we could put together because okay, sorry. I'm Becky Bolan, chair of the Newport Public Schools School Committee.
I'm Theresa Spengler, chair of the Middletown School Committee. Oh, we have to move this way. We're not on the camera.
Geez, okay.
It's all right. I don't mind.
Front and center. Okay, and so we've been discussing, and we sent a kind of a message to your school committee to see if they want to engage in talks, and you responded with, you actually just don't want to talk, but you'd rather let's get together and meet, right? You know.
Right. I think it would be a great opportunity for the 2 school departments to meet and talk about potential shared services that we could do. For example, what Lee Fenton just mentioned about our career pathways, Lee has been instrumental and persistent in making sure that our pathways in Middletown have been successful. So these are opportunities that I think our two districts could share. We are on the path, both districts are on the path of building a new high school. We are talking now about building the middle school, high school combination, and that will go to bond in May. So that's already been passed by our town council and the school committee. So we are planning that to happen. However, even if we do end up having where we're going to end up with the two high schools, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to share services, whether it's the Voc Tech program, whether it's our career pathways. And those are opportunities that Rogers has some areas of education that Middletown does not have, and vice versa. So these are opportunities that I think would be beneficial. This is where the two districts can communicate and really start to progress in this area and be able to have our students with more career pathways, more Voc Tech programs, more opportunities to be college and career ready.
Yeah, and just we want to make sure that we don't duplicate, efforts. And, once we took off on the boat, left the dock in terms of building the high school, you can't stop it, because you've got bond language, you've got commitments. And so we needed to finish, we need to get the building finished, but anything is possible in the future.
Absolutely. And that's where Middletown is at right now at this point as well. We need new buildings. We need to pursue this. The regionalization obviously didn't pass, and it doesn't matter at this point. Now we just we need to move forward and see what we can do between the two districts to collaborate and work, progress forward. Yes. Wait a minute, let me give you a microphone. We were told. There you go.
Hi, Beth Cullen for Newport. In your discussions, is there an opening for one career tech center in Middletown instead of currently in Newport, because they've run out of money? They're using their old career tech center, and I don't know the proper phrase, Becky, but they're sort of shelling other spaces within the building because they really have run out of money. And the location is really inappropriate for a year-round CTE program. So what path could you take to get the two towns to build one solid CTE facility in Middletown?
That's a great question. So what has happened so far? When we had the meeting with the town council the other day, the Voc Tech program came up. That was a big part of the discussion of what are we going to do in our middle school, high school campus? How is that going to be incorporated? And at this point, what was said by the architect team and the educational, I don't know what to call him, but consultant, the educational consultant, all of those things are going to be taken into consideration. We're also looking at square footage. So once we got the approval for the amount of money to put to bond from a week ago, there's 5 weeks to get an educational plan put together. There also is in the plan that was presented a week and a half or so ago, that there is space that if we needed to, there is more land space. It would potentially cut into some field areas, but there is possibilities to add on to our new property. We're already going up pretty high. I think we have three stories. No, I mean,
So the bond is 190.
right, but
100, but you should understand
Yes.
it's 170
With-
for the mid-school, high school.
right.
And 20 million is being set aside because of inflation.
And also for our elementaries, but
And the element.
so we're already building up. The building is 3 or 4 stories, 3 stories.
So
Some-
we have a total of 9 programs over at Rogers. There's only 2 right now that we don't have money for. And so those 2 programs are the cosmetology and the automotive. So part of when we applied, we got our permission to do this because we're a thoroughly integrated high school. So our programs, kids don't, in the old days, they just went to a Voc Tech school and you never expected them to go to college. That's not what we're doing in Newport. That's not the vision we have for our kids. My other son graduated, all the AP classes. He went to college, and he graduated from the construction program, so we really want to keep with that. And right now, by the way, we're not shelling at this point. What we're doing is we're going to be using the old building until such time as, we're reaching out. Yeah. But two programs are being.
If I could just extend that while we have the time. I was at the workshop the other evening, the Newport workshop with the scores. You weren't there, but I had a great chat with our CTE director afterwards. The demand for his programs are very, very high. The demand for upskilling adults is extremely high. The location of, I'm sorry, Becky, but the location on Wickham Road is not appropriate for year-round, night, day, summer, for upskilling as well as advancing some of these programs that these kids need to get into the 21st century career path. So I'm hoping that the two of you in your discussions will, and the two school committees will think a little bit down the road about building a true career tech. I understand the concept of comprehensive, but they can still take advanced placement classes at the Middletown High School. So it's a moot point, but I really do think we need a centrally located career tech facility that's going to work with our local industry. Blue economy has always been part of our industry. We just call it blue economy now, but Goat Island and the torpedo station is Newark. So there's a lot here that kids should be exposed to. Marine technology programs. It's not happening down at Wickham Road. So I just would hope that you guys would consider that in your talk.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Colleen. Oh, Colleen.
Thank you. Colleen Germain, Superintendent, Newport Public Schools. Couple of clarifications. Yes, marine technology and things are happening on Wickham Road. And as a matter of fact, Oceans Farm and Salem Newport, we also have programs growing with them that are extending. Our high school kids are now on the Ocean Farms property doing their science and lab work, and as well working the land to get sustainability, and those programs are expanding. The second part is you are correct. We do have waiting lists. They're in high demand, and kids from Tiverton, Little Compton, and as a matter of fact, Bristol Warren is trying to join our region as far as for busing. So we do have the programs. People are coming, and through Fort Adams and the ability to come across by boat, people are actually considering that kind of transportation to get to the southern part of the city. I hear very loudly and clearly the traffic summer, but we are thinking of different transportation ways of getting. I know the city council is working on a transportation plan. I just want those clarifications. The one thing I want to ask is I keep hearing about voc ed, and we don't have voc ed in Newport. So I'm curious what that term means, because career tech is where we've been going and have been going for the past 8 to 10 years, as far as them being career pathways. And when students get out of school, they're going into jobs. And I'm just curious, are we interchanging the terminology, or is there a specific programming you're speaking of when
I
you say that?
apologize.
Oh, no,
All-
that's okay. I didn't know
we-
if there was something
all-
else you were thinking of.
We would, because I went to Middletown High School way back a million years ago, and Paul Rogers,
Okay.
we always called it voc tech. So
Okay.
my apologies.
Oh, no,
It is.
nothing to
But
apologize
we do
about.
we do need to correct that, because you are absolutely right. They are career pathways. And I think I appreciate you bringing that forward, because I want to make sure that it's clear that we are on the same page.
Okay.
It-
I was wondering if
But
you had
we
something
always
else going
grew
on
up-
over there.
Paul and I always grew up with the word of voc tech. So
Okay.
it really, we have to make sure we change that terminology and call it the career pathways, because you're absolutely right. You have career pathways. We have our career pathways. The blue economy is one that is a very big potential to bring into our districts and make sure that we share something like that, because it is such a big, important part of Aquidneck Island
Right.
and how our students have grown up around the ocean all these years. So, but yes, we are on this, we're talking about the same program.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Just
about
checking.
that. Yes, thank you.
Well, great. We're having conversation. Awesome.
Have you, is there one thing that you're working on to say, like with the career pathways or the careers? Is there one project that you're working on? Because we've been through this down.
We haven't even
Okay.
met yet. So we are
Oh.
just having the preliminary discussion that we're going to set up a meeting. We both have meetings next week. Newport has a meeting on Tuesday. They're going to vote on it. We've already talked about opening a conversation. We have a meeting next Thursday and then we have February vacation. So it'll be sometime in the next few weeks. We'll come up with a date and a plan after Newport meets on Tuesday and we meet on Thursday.
Okay.
So then we'll have some kind of date scheduled
we-
ahead of time.
We tend just to say it and nothing gets done. You know, so if there's one activity, one step, what would that be?
Getting together, meeting.
Starting the process?
Starting the process, you
Okay.
know, and then figuring out from there where we go. But I also want to say that in Newport, we understand the importance of being on the water. So we're teaching our second graders how to swim. Our third graders go through a program, Save the Bay, and our fourth graders all get sailing lessons. And this is because we realize that the kids here, some of them have never had the opportunity to explore these things. So if we're bringing it in early and we're hoping it continues.
Just one quick question that you talked about at the workshop the other evening. Those skills that they're learning at Sail Newport and used to have the Island Moving Company, bringing the STEM STEAM programs into those and then bringing them back into the classroom. So that's something that I've always talked about with my friends that teach in the district and other places. How can you bring what they're doing at Sail Newport as part of their curriculum every day?
I'll let you answer that.
Yeah.
In the classrooms.
Well, we also have a STEM, we won a big grant. I know that you talked, right. And so, you know, it's just something we're right now embarking in Newport on integrating everything, figuring out how we can make progress, you know, in terms of academic achievement as a district. And so, you know, all these things, you know, are going to be open. And we invite anyone to come to these community meetings that we might have to figure out, you know, where Newport's headed, because we have to have a new, I think you do too. We have, both districts have to come up with a new strategic plan. So.
And I just want to add one more thing. I know we have to move on, but what the one last comment I want to make is that all of these things take time. To integrate something into the curriculum is also very challenging because of the ride mandates. So, and there's only so many hours in a day. So though, you know, we know that those things are critical and have to be incorporated and integrated into the curriculum. So that's where our,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's,
Thank you. We have Project Lead the Way, which is a STEM STEAM program, K through 12. And thank you to the group who pushed us. You did, and we listened.
Yeah. Becky and Theresa, thank you very much. It's, I think the small group here for right now, this is really an amazing opportunity to have our two school committee chairs here. Becky is a new grandma and she needs to go. So Becky, congratulations. And to have our superintendents here. So these conversations are intended to exchange ideas. We're all here for the kids, for the students, for the future. And so our next speaker is Pauline Cooper. Come on up, Pauline. Pauline is a senior at Rogers, and she is a recently nominated National Merit Scholar.
Semi-finalist.
Semi-finalist. Okay. Well, that's even better than just being nominated. So, all right. Pauline, thank you.
Hi, so as mentioned, I'm Pauline Cooper. I'm a senior at Rogers, and I'm just going to spend a couple minutes sharing some of my experience at Rogers and my thoughts about the future of Newport schools, which will obviously be closely tied to what the future of Middletown schools will be as well. So first of all, I'm glad to be here and hear everyone's thoughts and hopefully share some of mine. And I just wanted to share first some positive experiences that I've had at Rogers. As a couple people have mentioned before, I think our NACTech programs are some of our strongest aspects. I am in the AOIT program, which is the computer science program, and I've been able to learn a lot of skills for that. Even though it's not what I am intending to pursue in college, it's been it's been very helpful to be able to just be in that and gain career skills, even some of the soft skills that were mentioned, just learning how to interact with people. And I've been able to have a couple internships from that experience with the teachers and the connections from that. So one thing that I think Newport Schools does very well is taking advantage of the opportunities that are available in Newport to us. As the superintendent mentioned, we have been going on some field trip to the Ocean Hour Farm, which is a farm that practices lots of sustainable practices. And I actually just went on a field trip yesterday there, and we got to see some of the practices that they do and talk about regenerative agriculture, which I'm interested in, and I was able to go on the field trip even though I couldn't fit in the environmental science class in my schedule. And just yesterday as well, I was talking with my biology teacher about a grant that she's proposed for and gotten that will allow us to do a very exciting lab that will have these machines that allow us to study the DNA of different people that have sickle cell anemia. And it's very exciting to me because I love biology. And so there are so many teachers and people who care at these schools, and they are putting in so much effort to make sure that their students are having the best experience that they have. And I'm very thankful for that. And as with everything, there's also some negatives. But I think I want to frame these in the light of these are just things that we need to continue reaching for in the future. And a lot of the things that I'm going to mention are things that every school across the country and even in the world is struggling with. And so it's not meant to criticize Newport. It's just meant to look to the future and think of what we could do better. So first off, I just want to focus on the equity that we need to sort of strive towards in the schools, because as much as we are putting so much effort into it, the staff at Rogers still doesn't represent our students. And it's a very difficult issue. There's a lack of teachers. There's teachers there that may not represent the students, but they care so much about them and they're trying everything that they can to relate to students. But I think there's still so much work to be done in order to make sure that every student, regardless of their background, feels fully respected at school and feels that they have every resource that they need. And second, and lastly, I think the approach to learning in many public schools and many schools in general is very focused on sort of memorization and too focused on standardized tests and numbers. And I believe that learning is made through experiences. And with lots of experiences that I have had in Newport schools, as well as experiences that I've had at FEB Newport, have taught me that the way that I learn best and the way that I think a lot of students learn best is through doing things and learning things on your own without being given a checklist or a multiple choice problem to solve. And so I think one of the biggest things that we can try to do in the future is learn through experiences, through real life work, and through the way that every individual student learns best by giving them the freedom to choose how they want to shape their education. So that's all. Thank you. And any questions?
Any questions for Pauline? No. All right.
I'm interested in biology.
All right, very good. Thank you, Pauline. Like Chloe last time, it really takes a lot of courage for a young person to come up and speak to a a room full of adults. So thank you, Pauline, so much. And Pauline, your comments actually leads us into our next speaker, Dennis Turano, Middletown resident with his wife, Madeline, Madge, as I used to always call her. And Dennis and Madeline have a daughter who also went through the schools in Middletown. And so his commitment to the youth of our community is greatly appreciated. And we're going to hear more about more opportunities for youth. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Yes, both my children went to Middletown. My daughter Cassandra, who is actually working in the emergency room in Newport and also South County. Got a couple degrees, and she's going to be moving on to get her nurse practitioner license soon. My son is actually graduated from Fairfield, and he is a aerospace engineer, and he does master's degree. So he came right out of the Middletown school systems. I went through the school systems as well, along with my brother and my sister. My father was a career-oriented. He had a career at Middletown started as an English teacher, and then he worked his way through the system and became the dean of students. So while I was in high school, he was my dean. And just to show you how kids don't think too clearly, my friends would say, "Hey, Dennis, do you want to bunk school today?" I said, "Do you realize the dean woke me up?" Okay, and the gig will be up after homeroom. That'll be the end of it. So very much centered in Middletown. My career, I'm a businessman. I've traveled the nation. I've learned a lot. This is a great location. Aquidneck Island is the best. And when you were younger and you're living here, we got to get out of here. You know, we've got to move on. But you sometimes don't realize what you have until you do move away. So we've got a great community. Just want to make it better. I'm serving my 4th term on the town council. My charter has been tax reform. It's been senior housing, and also helping to better our kids' education and get them ready for their career. And so one of the things that I had kind of witnessed as I was on the council, and it was really after my kids got out of school, because, you know, when your kids are in the school, you're close to it. But when they're out, then you kind of start seeing things and how they got through it. And it was 2019, you know, we were working with the school, and we all want to make our kids smarter and get their grades to a higher level. And one of the things I kept thinking was, you know, I was able to give my kids tutoring when I was in school, and I was able to, if they were falling a little bit behind in math, I could find a tutor, pay for that tutor, get them back up to speed so then they can keep up with the courses. And realize there are students out there that do not have that capability. And we all know when you fall behind in something in math, specifically math builds on itself. So if you're missing it in one area, it's going to be very hard to keep up. So one of the things that I was thinking about that, and one day I was listening to an interview with the Lieutenant Governor, Dan McKee, and he had mentioned a program that he had formed in Cumberland when he was a mayor. So Terry Flynn and myself did a road trip up to the house and had a meeting with the Lieutenant Governor, and he explained the program he did in Cumberland. And then basically to net it out, it's an after-school program. And I was like, wow. And what I was really surprised about is this program had already been in place for more than 10 years. I'm like, I thought it was a new program, but no, 10 years it's been in place. And they noticed an increase that they were able to educate the kids, not when they were just in school, but after school and during the summer. And they had programs, and it was supported by the community from volunteers, but it was also funded by the town as a way of giving the community to give more to the education. So I had the Lieutenant Governor come down and speak to the town council and the school committee. And he told us about the program. And so I said, we need a program like this in Middletown. And so I took the initiative to push for this. The school, you know, we have to work with the school. We can't do it without the school. And that was one of the Lieutenant Governor's like, you got to work with the school. And so we basically So when we talked to the Lieutenant Governor and he came down and spoke with us, I was saying, we got to do this. And very excited, the school committee actually came back, it was probably about 3 or 4 weeks later, and said, we have this program called Beyond the Bell. We've had this program, it was kind of on the side burner for a little bit, but they brought it back. And this is exactly what we were looking for. It's offering educational advancement after school, trying to give that extra hour or two to the children to catch them up. And we didn't want to overlap at all. So one of our major goal was, we just want to fill the gaps. How can we help? If you're doing this and it's going well, we don't need to do it. But if there are spaces that aren't being filled, we would like to challenge to help you fill those goals. Example being, one was we call backpack to briefcase. It was, how do they go from in the classroom into a career? How do we start educating them? When do we start educating them on what their options are? So we started looking into that. We did a study. Also, the town did a study looking, where are these gaps at? So fast forward, that program took off. A lot of credit to the school. They supported this 100%. The teachers are helping us support that, coming up with the programs. The assistant superintendent, she's just been rock solid when it comes to this program. She modeled it a lot after what they did in Cumberland. So, you know, how do you judge if this is working? That was one of the things we were looking at as well. So one of the things that I heard last year after graduation was, if it wasn't for this after school program, there'd be 21 or 22 kids who would not have graduated last year. Okay, think about that. That is big. That's life-changing. So we owe a ton of thanks to the school and helping us pull this together, and for the town to have the visibility of this is a requirement that we need. We used ARPA money to help fund it. We put financing towards it. And I think this is a program that we might be able to share across the island. You know, what we're doing in Middletown, we don't want to overlap it. Maybe Newport can have certain classes. I'm a believer in, we should be educating our kids 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Give them access to education, especially in the senior years and junior years. Give them a little bit more of a college look and feel to it, so they might even work a job and then go on a Saturday to a Spanish class or something. That's just kind of how I think virtual learning. Some kids really like virtual learning. Some did not do well at virtual learning. So those are the areas that we were thinking about. And as we started this program, COVID kicked in 2020. That really slowed everybody down. But what it did also was it created even more of a need for this type of program. I mean, it was a no-brainer. We all know that the kids are a year to 2 years behind. And so this program started even picking up more speed, okay? And we also, Terry and myself and the committee, we started looking at this as a community outreach program. And that is not just to the school side of things, but we want to bring it to the seniors. We want to bring it to young families. We want to reach out to the community, be proactive, and put pieces in place to fill the gaps. There are so many programs that are offered through this community. I just can't believe it. I mean, there's hundreds of organizations that do things on a daily basis to help our community through. We had a homeless situation. We hired a coordinator for our community outreach program, Lori Turner. And when there was a homeless situation, we contacted Lori. She got in touch with a couple of the associations that deal with it, pointed the person in the right direction, and took care of the situation. Okay. And there are just all different types of services that are available to our residents that they're not aware of. And so we look at this as an opportunity to outreach to these folks, understand what their needs are. We should be talking to the kids that are 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. You were talking about career tech. It's so big. And we're talking about that at the Middletown level. But it's also for the communities of kids who maybe graduate high school, go to college, it doesn't work out, need to find a career. We should be able to offer that as a community. And so I've got a big drive on that. So the program, the Middletown Community Outreach Department was formed. The first year, they gave me $4,000. We didn't get too much done. We got a survey done to point out how bad we need it. And then last year, they funded us $130,000 for the department. And we were able to hire a full-time coordinator. And we've got some other dollars to help do career days or just to help, again, fill the gaps. Help these children be ready to fly when they come out of school and have a direction of where they might want to go. So that's part of it, okay? And again, we couldn't do it without the school. It's, you know, and I just want to, Michelle, excuse me, let me just get this number here real quick. Bear with me for a second. I just want to share with you the numbers. That was actually Michelle Fonseca. Am I saying that right? Fonseca, sorry. So this is our outreach subcommittee agenda. And Michelle, she comes to each of the meetings. We talk about the program, the results of the program. How's the program going? How can we help you? Transportation is one of the big things that we're trying to address. Homelessness is something that we're trying to address. You know, we have that in our schools. And she had updated us. And there's approximately in the last program, 430 children who participated in this program. That's a lot of extra help. And it's a need. And they're reaching out and they're doing it. So very excited about that after school program in education. And it's going to continue. I hope it stays in place. I hope we can spread it across the island so that, you know, if we're able to collaborate, because I think that is so important. And we've talked about unification. We've talked about regionalization. But I like how we're talking education and how we can get programs across the community, not overlapping, but fill in the gaps. And so that's my charter. I'm going to keep driving that. And I'm hoping that this all succeeds, which I feel it will, because we've got some really smart people in this room. We've got really smart people in our community. If we all pull together, our children's careers will be bright. They will have a feel for where they're going to go and what they want to do. And it's not just college. It's not just the blue wave. It's a community, and we'll all be stronger for it. So that, I just wanted to share that with you. That's what we meet we meet the second Thursday of every month at the fire station. We start at 5:30. And it usually goes to about 7 o'clock, and we share a lot of good ideas and we work together on things. And so I'd happy to have everyone participate. Again, Terry Flynn, thank you. She's been a real asset when it comes to this. Terry, anything you want to add to this?
I'll just add one thing, that the mission of this department is to support the efforts and meet the needs of all community members by delivering enrichment, guidance, and wellness opportunities. And that covers it all. It's community members, whether they're individuals or their organizations, because we are a community, and no one should do without in our communities. We have lots of resources. People just, knowledge is power. They don't know where to go sometimes. So now there's a place. It's the, Middletown Outreach Department. And I was honored to serve on the governor's education transition team. And these are departments that, having a regional department was one of the big ideas. There were lots of big ideas that could come from the work that was done on those teams and on so many other studies and documents that exist today. I think we need to tap into a lot of that and start executing some of these great ideas whose time has come. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. So again, I just want to, on the education side, and this is with the results that were given to me by Michelle, is the January Again, 496 students participated in this program. At Aquidneck, they had intervention grades K-3 and grades 3 math problem solving. At Forest Ave, we had intervention grades K-3 reading. The Gaudet Learning Academy, grade 4-5 oral reading. Grades 4 reading comprehensive, grade 5 reading comprehensive, grades 4 and 5 basic addition and subtraction fractions, grades 5 basic multiplication and division, grades 4 and 5 multiple step math computation and skills. Intramurals grades 4 to 5 at the Gaudet Middle School, intervention academic extensions grades 6 to 8. And Middletown High School credit recovery for 9 to 12 in English, math, science, social studies, English learning support, arts. And then the Middletown Child Opportunity, which is a great program, 10 programs. I won't read all through those, but those are all the things that are being offered to our students and to our young adults. I just think it's so important that they are rising to the occasion. I'm just so excited about it. And I'm really excited. Again, could not do it without the school. Okay. They have the facilities, they have the transportation, they have the teachers. So proud of our teachers as well. There was over 44 teachers who participated in this program as well to help provide these services. And yes. Nope, is paid position. Yeah. Separate from that. Yep. So they jump in. Some people do donate their time, but most of it is a paying position.
One thing that you start to regionalize with this program, you know, that's it's established and going on because we get other colleges. Either Newport, Portsmouth, Tiverton, you know, how can we work as a team? We don't have to meet at the same place. How do we work?
I would probably reach out to Michelle in the school to see how we, as you guys are getting together, are there after school programs that Middletown can do that Newport can take advantage or Portsmouth can take advantage of, and see if we can circulate that. I mean, English learning seems to be one of the higher areas, not only in the schools, but also in our community. And so that's an area that I think would probably be useful to, you know, across the community. Yeah.
So
Yes.
I don't know if this, is it working? Oh, okay. So, yes, thank you, for this, Dennis. So in Newport, what we do is we have, community partners, Boys and Girls Club, MLK, Fab Newport, and they actually take our curriculum and they work with the students when they go, and part of their programs are that they, for instance, Boys and Girls Club, MLK, they look at what we're doing in the schools and they have like a after school support, what you suggest. Newport Community School is housed in Thompson. I'm just wondering, is Middletown or does Middletown use any of your community partners, which I believe you may,
Yes.
to do some of these things? Because I
Yeah,
know you have
do.
you have the YMCA and you have that, because that is great to get a lot of community people involved.
Right, we do. We use the Y, we use the Boys and Girls Club. And our cozies, Middletown Cozy and Newport Cozy, are already partners. And we share those activities and actually personnel.
Yes.
I just want to add that it's because we wanted to support those community partners in working with, whether it's our students or our families, because when we did that survey at the very beginning, we found that every single organization that we interviewed, whether it was the community school or it was EdCap, that they all had gaps, things that they wanted to do that their program couldn't do, or they applied for a grant that it didn't cover something that popped up. Because issues do crop up. You know, who'd have thought the homeless situation would have been here on this island in the quantity that it is. And the department, the overlying essence is that it is the town's responsibility. It's all of ours responsibility, and to take responsibility and have a municipal department that can fill the gaps and take that on.
Thank you. Did you have a question? Okay. All right. Well, I really thank you for your time and allowing me to come up and speak on this. I get really excited about it, and I have very high hopes, and I want to get our schools working cleanly together and collaborating and leveraging the limited resources that we have, right? And we don't need to overlap, you know, so I think the more we work together and communicate, I think, again, our students will benefit.
Could you just elaborate a little bit on the budget that you needed to start this? I mean, what is the money situation?
Well, it started with $4,000. And that was to do a study. We did a study just to make sure that we weren't overlapping and that the demand was there. The council wanted to have a study done. So we did that, and we recognized that there were some gaps. So working with the school, and the school will probably talk a little bit better in regards to the budget because they're the ones that are managing that. But for the outreach, community outreach department, again, last year they gave us roughly $140,000 where we hired a coordinator, and then we had some additional dollars to participate in events, career days. You know, we're looking at other things to do in the spring. But then the school itself, that program, I don't have the exact numbers on those. I know, do you have the numbers?
I don't have the numbers offhand, but we used a number of grants. The McKinney-Vento grant for homeless, we use the any English multi-language learner dollars for grants. What the town did is infuse money to enhance those programs so we could make it a more expansive program, which was greatly appreciated because we were confined by the dollars of those grants. So, you know, maybe we would have had half of those students rather than 400 students participating in Beyond the Bell. With the town's infusion of those dollars, it expanded our program.
And we used a lot of the ARPA money as well to our school to assist with this program. And we actually allocated $200,000 to the arts and the sports to help stand those back up, because I believe that you got to give them the fun stuff to make them go to the hard stuff. And, you know, I think we sort of lose that a little bit from a budgeting standpoint. So we actually took couple $100,000. We segmented all the coaches and into the arts and said, tell us what you need. And safety's first. Well, we need new helmets. We need new shoulder pads. And so it really created a buzz within the school and to the students. I mean, just did volleyball, new volleyball nets or a new wrestling mat. I mean, it shows them care, gives them the right tools. They say, well, did it make them better? Said, I don't know, but they probably feel better. You know, if you got new pull-up pads and you got a new helmet, you got a new uniform, you're going to feel better. And so we want to make sure that they have the good stuff to ask them to do the hard stuff. But if we don't give them the good stuff, they might not do the hard stuff. Okay, so we want to focus on that too and make sure that they're thriving on the after-school activities for sports and arts and cultures. So that's part of our to-do. Yes.
Yeah, let me ask you to speculate on a question that I've had for the last couple of weeks. Mike Cullen in Newport, and I asked this question a couple nights ago when the Newport district reviewed the RHS standardized test scores. The question isn't about standardized test scores, and I wish really a RIDE rep were here. So I'm going to ask you, then I'll give Colleen and Rosemary an opportunity to weigh in. At the time that our students are being tested, there's a similar survey called Survey Works that went out to teachers. And I've looked at your RICAS scores. Okay. I've looked at them for the low-income kids and for all the other kids. And I know your stats, I know Newport's, but this is the question that continues to gnaw on me. So let me just read you the formal RIDE question. And this went out to your teachers, students, 420 of your students, grades 3 through 5, student survey. How often do you talk about college in class? Well, the Newport number was 13%. And I thought that was really, really low. Your number's 8%. even lower than Newport's. But the one that causes me to wonder even more, since a lot of people aren't focused on college, they're focused more on jobs and careers, is how often do you talk about jobs and careers in class? The Middletown number was really close to Newport's number, 23%. So over 75% of the students that responded here are not getting exposed to this conversation about jobs and careers in class at grades 3 through 5. And what I'm wondering is, to what extent does that potential lack of relevancy determine their achievement on both language arts and math going forward when they move into your middle school? Do you want to take a stab at that?
I'm gonna let the professionals take a stab at that. But that was part of when we were talking about backpack to briefcase, the ability to start looking at starting, and it's the community's responsibility to help with this. But I believe when kids get into the ninth, maybe even 8th grade, 9th grade, you start exposing them to what they're going to have to make a decision at some point here, where you're going to, after 12th grade, you're going to have to make a decision. You got one life to live. What are you going to do with it? Make the best of it. We have to educate them 8th or 9th, 10th, whenever it starts, maybe even sooner, right?
Grades 3 through 5. So
Okay, 3 to 5.
Is in your experience, is there a potential upside to experimenting with earlier exposure to grades 3 through 5 on these careers?
Yeah,
I've done that from the cyber perspective.
Right.
As early as grade 4.
Okay.
And the kids are blown away.
Yeah.
At grade 5, they're starting to go, whoa, yeah, I see this as really fun.
Yeah. Would you like to comment on that?
So you have to take the survey from, where it's at, but that's the data and that's the information that we have. We do concentrate on job awareness with the upper grades, not the grades 3 to 5. To be honest with you, I think our elementary teachers have a lot on their plate, and maybe should be professional development around that. In terms of pedagogy and how they can connect the work that they're doing to jobs that are out there or could be out there in the future. What we did at the high school through a grant and through the town this year is we have a career, a class that a number of our students go into, and we're bringing in speakers. We're bringing all kinds of jobs, and that, it's pretty much every day there's a speaker in there. We have the Cardi brothers, and they brought their sweaters. And just a number of opportunities like that for our ninth graders. That class was oversubscribed immediately. The opportunities that we're going to have when the bond passes with our middle and high school, we really see that opportunity with the 6 through 12. So that will we need to dig into that data, to be honest with you, Mike. I don't have an answer why that's not. I'm guessing maybe Colleen has an answer, and I'll learn something from Colleen about how we can make that better. But I don't know truly that the emphasis at the elementary is connection to the workforce. We used to have career days at the elementary. Those went by the wayside. We do have career days at our high school. Yeah. Colleen.
All right. I'd like to thank Dennis for all of your enthusiasm, and Rosemarie. Thank you for tackling some of the tough questions. And it's a perfect lead in with Dennis saying that this program was piloted off of our now governor's program up in Cumberland. And Mike mentioned RIDE, another state level organization, but we do have our next speaker, Lou DiPalma, here, who can perhaps enlighten us a little bit more about things that are happening at the state level, maybe what some of the options might be. And you all might have some really tough questions for him. I'm not too sure. Lou, I'll let you do your own introduction here. I know that you're a familiar face and a big supporter of all things here on the island. We sure appreciate you making the time tonight.
Well, thank you, Lynn, and thanks for, you can hold the applause till the end. I'm just kidding. Or throw something at the end. Thanks for doing it tonight, but I think when you heard, or when I heard anyway, Pauline spoke earlier, what came to mind was the yearning for learning. When she talked about biology, it's like, I can just see her. I assumed you're going to say biology. Where are you going to go to college? You know? You got options though. Very good. Computer science isn't bad either. That'd be a good place to do. You could do a double major if you like, but it's about, at the end of the day, creating that. Oh, I just made that up as I was sitting there. It's like the real, you can hear in her voice, the yearning for learning that she had about biology. Nothing wrong with that. I like biology, but I like physics better because I like being an engineer, right? That's what physics and engineering go together, and the calculus and the quick story with regards to that. If you ever want to get me something to eat, buy me a donut. The one thing about triple integration, if you're taking calculus and you get calculus of 3 variables, college, I'm in physics and calculus, and I had it in high school as well. AP physics at high school and calculus. And a toroid, if we know what a toroid is, it could be a magnet, right? What does it look like? A donut. If I want to figure out the volume of a toroid, I know the equation. It's triple integration on the volume of a toroid, so I just have to expand it a little bit. And so I love donuts, all kinds of donuts. So it's about applying physics and making it real. One of the pieces about making it real, and I think he's now head of Roger Williams. I can't think, great guy. He used to be, I believe, I think it's him at Northeastern before. And prior to that, I believe he was at Northeastern, and he was an engineering PhD in chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, something exciting. He would teach his class about thermodynamics. Pretty involved kind of science, all kinds of math, science, equations, all kinds of those. How did he do it? He taught them by teaching them how to cook a dinner. I'm going to cook a roast. So the entire class at the end, they would cook a roast. The size of the roast, the heat transfer, all those kinds of things, everything went with it. And they enjoyed it, obviously, but they made it real with doing this. So sort of a side note, but Lynn, thanks for doing this. I think some of the same faces were here when we had the Middletown session in circles on tables here, but it's great to see some folks that obviously continue to be involved from Middletown, Newport, and wherever else you come from. So I am Lou DiPalma, serving my 15th year in the Senate. This year, I became chair of the Senate Committee on Finance. I've been on finance for 15 years, Finance Committee, and I've been on education for 15 years. I'm in education again. We'll have our first hearing next week in education, but meeting about the budget. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the state's doing from an education perspective. It's going to align a little bit with what's being discussed here, but it may not. So if you want me to sit down and be quiet, just say, sit down, we had enough, raise your hand and say I had enough. But one thing I want to talk about is the investment the state's making and all you folks are making and will be making in infrastructure and buildings. Buildings don't create great education. They provide the venue for great education and experiences like Pauline to occur. When all is said and done, if I just think about a few projects, we're talking $1 billion. We're throwing around billions of dollars these days in school construction. I'll give Governor Raimondo credit when she put that thing forward. Obviously, the General Assembly went with her on that journey. We're going to look back on this. Whoever's around, I won't be around 50 years from now, but I'll be around 44 years from now. We're going to look back on this time and look at the investment that the state made and cities and towns made and the residents made on school facilities. It'd be like none other. I can't say exactly what existed over the last couple hundred years of, or 300 years of the state of Rhode Island, from building school construction. I don't think we'll see something. We might see something like this in the future, but the investment now of what's happening in East Providence, what's happening in Providence, what's happening in Warwick. Warwick's going to build two brand new high schools. East Providence, every time everybody talks about East Providence, I want to go see it. They talk about it being a place when you walk in, you want to be there, right? So it's a case where it's inviting. It's not the only ingredient to education, but it's certainly a foundational piece to that. So we're continuing to look at that. What should the state do? There's bonuses that have been put in about consolidating number of buildings down. So they call it, I was going to say cooler and warmer, but it's newer and fewer, right? Newer buildings and fewer buildings. Governor Mundo or Secretary Mundo wouldn't like that. The cooler and warmer, but I did anyway. Newer and fewer, warmer and drier, right? Building things that focus on science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Pieces with regards to energy efficiency sort of went by the wayside with regards to some of the bonuses. And there's a couple other ones that I don't remember what they are now, but it's working to incentivize cities and towns and school districts across the state, literally across the state. And we just voted on in the finance committee on Tuesday night for North Providence. I want to think it's $125 million. I think that's what it was for all the language, but some of it's about new schools, consolidating some elementary schools, the whole gamut. Everybody is doing it. Just about everybody's doing it. Why? Because the increased reimbursement is there. Clearly, some of the more, I'll say needy communities from the kinds of populations that are there and the income that they have that get the 80% reimbursement or the 100% reimbursement, they've been doing some of this over time. So that doesn't change it. It's not going to change their behavior there. So the time is now. Obviously, the state wants to work with cities and towns. We are looking to upgrade and change. And I think we'll see legislation tomorrow that I'll be submitting, working to, there's a base formula they can get now, base reimbursement of 35% of your project. We're looking to bring that to 40. And when you bring that to 40, there's also a limit on what you can do for those bonuses on newer and fewer, warmer, drier, steam, et cetera, that allow you to be, it can be no more than 20% of your base. So if you're able to get to 20% of the, or 40% of the, I guess 20% of the base, if your base is 35, you can't go more than 50% of that, you can only get 17. Why that was done, I don't know. I really don't. I was there when we did it. But thinking back on it, it's like, well, that doesn't seem to make sense if these other things get added. So we're looking to try and, how do we change that as well? That affects like 18 cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island, all at the base level of 35%. I think all of Newport County is. I represent Middletown, Newport, Little Compton, Tiverton. Let's add Jamestown and let's add Portsmouth. I think we're all in the 35%. Who else does it impact? Warwick, some big cities and towns as well, not just the smaller suburban areas in the state. So how does that help the cities and towns, help the taxpayer? At the end of the day, it's all of our money. It's all of our money. So the state contributes. Why shouldn't all the cities and towns participate in it when we're helping each other? Because like I said, it's all our money. It's all our taxpayers. It's all our money. It's just where it comes back to from the perspective of making that and making that investment into the infrastructure, into the buildings, et cetera, which is a core piece of that. We saw it in Senate President Theresa Spengler when she was there, would praise Newport. And I'm going to praise Newport again tonight. To go from 5 or 6 elementary schools that you had to 1 was a big deal. We talk about it at the state all the time, all the time. The ones that were down Underwood and where they were for people to say, and I'm sure there was some gnashing of teeth along the way, no way are you getting rid of my local school. Nope, my neighborhood. No. You did. Hell was built and people came back. Exactly what needed to do, exactly what needed to happen. Forget about what the state did to Newport as it relates to Pell, where they squeezed them and said, nope, bring your money down a little bit. As soon as you opened up, you were full and you just added a new addition to it. All the right things happened there, and it's the right kind of facility for education. The other piece from an education perspective is really looking at the funding formula for operation of the school. You built a school, going to pay for that over time, including the debt service, et cetera. But we're also looking at now, how do we address and fix funding formula where it needs to be fixed? So the governor's proposed 4 different areas where he recommend increased funding in some other areas. There's some legislation going in from the Senate, I know. I think I was a co-sponsor on it. The Senate President, the Senate Majority Leader, who was the Chair of Finance prior, Senator Pearson, have come out and said, So it's my priority because it's their priority from a finance perspective, whether I like it or not, but I like it, is we're going to spend a lot of time looking at the funding formula across the board. Multilingual learners, critical issue. Special ed, high cost special ed. It's a big deal. Among there's several other things that you may care, you may not care about, but just know that in the Senate, we are going to look and spend a lot of time on looking at the education funding formula to ensure we're getting the return on the investment. At the end of the day, it's not just about more money. And everybody knows me, I'm an engineer. Last week, I started my 5th month of my 40th year as an engineer. I think I got hopefully a bunch more years to go. It's about facts and data. We'll invest more, and I'll stand behind investing more, provided we can show it has a return on investment. No return on investment? Let's stop that investment and let's go do something else. Or adjust it a little bit so we can go make certain we're getting the right return. As the council person said earlier, with regards to after the bell working with the school, getting some good results. They need to continue. And if they don't, we need to stop that and figure something else out to make certain we make the difference there. So those are really what's happening at the state level. To me, 2 areas, one on housing. They call it housing. I'm not certain why, how it's ever created that way, but it's about buildings and the things associated with school buildings and construction. And obviously Newport's right in the middle of it. Middletown, I got the language of the day. I think it's going to come up and I'll see that next couple days. That'll be submitted for hearing. But then the real piece is on the funding formula and what happens going forward from there. At the end of the day, funding formulas, and may he rest in peace, Mike Crowley. I remember Mike was chair of the Middletown School Committee for years, had said, be careful what you ask for when you get that funding formula. Because prior to that, it was the state's going to give cities and towns another 1%. Oh, no, guess what? You got 2%. Oh my goodness, we got double what we're going to get. That's great. Then Mike said, people kept saying, we need a funding formula, we need a funding formula, we need a funding formula. That happened. And it's like the floor opened, and many of the cities and towns that I represent kept going down and down and down and down. And it came down to numbers of students, basically student population. So I'm here for questions. You may not have questions, but I'll be around after Tom, I guess.
Just curious as to what the governor announced a new funding for an initiative to catch up to Massachusetts, so to speak.
He did.
I'm curious as to how that plan gets, how you engage and the people that are working on that.
So the what Tom's bringing up is the plan with regards to governor. You heard him talk about the 2030 plan. So you can see it online. There were 6 or 7 different, I'll say, facets to it. I participated on some of that not last year, the year before, when he was becoming governor, or was lieutenant governor at the time, whatever. So it's one of the things it's about. We have, and this goes back to Governor Raimondo, about 70% of Rhode Islanders needed to have credentials, one of the things, beyond high school. Not just to have a degree, but credentials. And credentials are all kinds of things. As Mike was saying earlier, in the area of cybersecurity, you don't necessarily have to have an associate's degree. You can have a bunch of credentials in the cybersecurity area and be very effective, have a great life for yourself, and make a lot of money at the same time. The other piece is about, that's one part of it, making sure those credentials for older folks, assuming the kids that are in school now are going to graduate and get to those credentials. The other piece, though, of trying to reach Massachusetts with regards to, we'll call it the standardized tests, it just is on the RICAS, there'll be a lot of work to get there. And what I've said, it's basically I don't remember all the numbers, all the percentages, but with regards to math, English language arts, science, whatever, there's really the 2 critical areas where people always want to look at is mathematics and English language arts are a key focus of what needs to be looked at as it relates to achieving Massachusetts standards. Massachusetts did it over the course of 20 years. And what they said, we're going to focus on it, we're going to do it, we're going to stick with it, and they stuck with it. You also hear some people talk about education in Massachusetts being a right, constitutional right. It's not in Rhode Island. It's not. Legislation's been put in. Tim Duffy, who's head of the executive director of the school committees, has talked about that. Uncertain whether that's going to make it. There's been legislation in about having education be a constitutional right. And if it becomes a constitutional right or in law, and you're not meeting out those needs, and take it to the court and go from there. So here's one example I'll give. And I saw this last session. I was on finance and education. I was first vice chair of finance, but I was also chair of the Senate Committee on Rules, Government Ethics, and Oversight. We spent a lot of time looking at Providence. Why? The Providence school system, because the state took over the Providence school system. The mayor said, here it is, take it, I need your help. So I say two things. The people say, why do you care about Providence so much? You represent Middletown, Newport, Little Compton, and Tiverton. As Providence goes, so goes the entire state. 24,500 students. In grade eight, how many, I'm gonna ask you, Tom, what percentage of the students in grade 8 were proficient in math?
In Providence,
In Providence,
I'm gonna guess a low number, 15%.
about 8%. Eighth grade, about 8%. I think it went to 6. So given that, 24,000 students, 24,500, and the superintendent would say, he came in one point with regards to a chart and said, over the course of 22 years, he wasn't there 22 years, they'd have no seats left at the dunk for the number of students that dropped out. 500 would drop out on an annual basis. So if we're going to do all this, Providence needs to be right there with us, because if we don't do Providence, the rest of us don't make a difference with regards to getting numbers. My focus is, though, Middletown, Little Compton, Tiverton, and Newport, and what we need for those areas. So that's part of the trying to reach the Massachusetts numbers that they are today, all a part of that. There's no one size, there's no one solution to any of it. It's going to take everybody involved to get there. And it comes down to some of the basic blocking and tackling stuff. Play football, I coach football, unless you block, unless you tackle, it doesn't make a difference what you do. So, yeah.
What are the barriers to making it right? Education.
Sorry. Right. Thank you.
From your colleagues, why they don't support.
My opinion only. Some legislators might be concerned that's going to cost too much.
So they care more about the money than.
I'm just, that's
That's what it boils down to.
I say to folks, I'm always going to be respectful direct. And so that's where we need to. Sorry, I think I'm getting sorry. Yes. Okay. The question is, what are the roadblocks to making education a right in the state of Rhode Island? I think the legislators, not myself, but as a body, we vote as a body. I have concerns with regards to the cost potentially. That's what I believe. So, I'm not saying it's right, but that's what I believe the issue is. Yep. Sorry.
So how do we here on Aquidneck Island work to change that? How can we advocate for that education is a right?
With regards to, if we see legislation, Senator Picard, I think, is the one who has done that. He represents Woonsocket. He's also the deputy president pro tem. If you see legislation, contact your legislators. That'd be me or your representatives. We have 3 of them in Middletown: Representative Finkelman, Representative Abney, Representative Cortrand. And then tell other people across the state it's important to do. It really is. At the end of the day, if I went around the room, and you don't have to, you may not want to raise your hand because you might be the odd person out, potentially. Do you think education should not be a right? Okay, that's fine. That's everybody has an entitled to an opinion.
One thing you said, they'll wind up in court.
So the concern. So the concern, I won't recognize who it is unless he chooses to say who it is. Okay, it would be the concern that we don't want to do it because it might end up in court. You know what? It might. At the end of the day, so I have 5 grandchildren. Some of you have more grandchildren, some have less. That's our future. We either invest in our future or we don't. It's basic. It's binary. It's not well, maybe I want to invest in the future, because if we don't, there's a whole bunch of things that happen because of that. Right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lou. That's okay. Don't worry about it. All right. Well, thank you all again for coming. Appreciate it. We're going to do another round in March 9th. It seems like the nines are all coming together. There must be some mathematic equation in that. I don't know. January 9th, February 9th, March 9th. So thank you again to our speakers, Liana, Dennis. Really appreciate it. Rosemary and Colleen, really great for you to be here. We know your time is precious and a lot of big decisions regarding education. And Pauline, we're all here for you and all of your classmates. Thank you. Good night.